educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. They always have been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger.
Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto. This is your weekly morning show where we go live 10 a.m. Eastern every single weekday, bringing you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets. Today, we are going to be talking about the major drop that happened on Bitcoin last week, how it dropped down to $18,500, how Ethereum dropped down to $850, and we are going to be answering one very simple question. What is your next move here in these markets, considering the historic drop that we have just seen? Ethereum's down 80%, Bitcoin down 75%, approaching that 85% retracement that we've seen before on different bear markets in 2013 and 14 on Bitcoin, and 2018 and 19 on Bitcoin. Are we going to see the same thing? Are we going to drop lower? We're going to be answering some of your most pressing questions having to do with how to handle this market and what our next steps are. We've got a great show lined up for you today, and we have a very exciting announcement regarding Club DeFi that we're going to be talking about a little bit later. But we are joined, as always, by TA Tim. How you doing, Tim?
What's up, everybody? If you guys can let me know in chat, what is this shirt from? It's probably too small for you to read, but this shirt has a very dear to my heart meaning to it. And if you guys can tell me, I might do something special for you guys who guess it.
Boom. There you go. Well, we are also joined, as always, by Smay. How you doing, Smay?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing.
I like that hat.
Oh, thank you. It is a good hat, and you know, I love it because it's green and it matches the Celtics jersey. Yeah. Rest in peace, the Celtics. Anyways,
Did they lose?
Yeah.
Oh no.
So I'd like to read some green names in honor of the green and the green and the green. You know. So we have first of all, I want to say Elliot Locke. Welcome to Jebb Youngling. Groovy. Elliot Locke again. Mitch Shaw. Who else we got here? Adam Rourke, Crypto JMP, Cyberfix Online, SEO by Bradley Kellum, Jojo, OMAC, Mario Dohinovich, Stony McGuire, Jojo, and you know, here's some off the top of my head: Crypto Set Guy, Matt C,
Brad Geidel.
Brad Geidel,
Boom,
Tom Wilkes. I love all of you guys. You guys are the best. Anyways, back to you, Jebb.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we have a lot to talk about today. We have a bunch of articles, bunch of experts that we're going to be talking about. We have a lot of technical analysis to do, and we have a lot of your most pressing questions and our answers to them coming up in the discussion portion of today's stream. But I do just want to remind you to stay tuned, because there's a very exciting announcement coming up relatively soon. That'll be coming halfway through the hour. But first things first, we are going to take a look here at CoinMarketCap and run down. Bitcoin currently sitting up 6.61% over the last 24 hours. If we refresh the page, it's currently sitting at $20,431, just above all-time high that was set on December 17th, 2017, a month and a day after this channel was founded. Ethereum sitting at 1119, up 9% in the last 24 hours. Binance up 4.45%. Cardano trading at 49 cents, up 7.23%. Interesting thing to point out here, over the last 90 days, Cardano has outperformed, or at least not dropped as much as Bitcoin and Ethereum. I would say a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that Cardano had already had a lot of its valuation wiped out by the time that this major drop over the last couple of weeks started, because it was already so low. So that actually makes quite a bit of sense. XRP, as you can see, is down 61.99% in the last 90 days, but it is up 3.24% over the last 24 hours. Solana up 11%. Dogecoin rallying on some news of Elon Musk saying he is still buying. In fact, that will lead us into our articles here. Elon Musk says right here, I will keep supporting Dogecoin. As of yesterday, June 19th, you can see this got 33,000 retweets from the Dogecoin enthusiast himself, Elon. And Altcoin Gordon said, keep buying it then. And Elon said, I am. So that's quite interesting to see Elon Musk continuing to buy Dogecoin despite everything that's happening. It seems that he would believe that the lead meme coin is going to continue to be memeable enough that people would want to buy it moving on into the next bull market. And just a quick reminder, we're going to talk about this more later, there will be a next bull market. Just remember that when the stock market goes through a correction, it doesn't go to zero and disappear. When you have commodities go down, they don't go to zero and disappear. Now, if you're talking about Brent crude oil 2 years ago, it does go to zero, but it didn't disappear because the price of a barrel of oil right now is absurd. It has gone up drastically. So when things, even when they go to zero, They typically bounce if they are a strong fundamental part of the economy, and Bitcoin most certainly is. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have dropped below the key level of $1 trillion market capitalization as of about a week ago. You can see we dropped down here. We're currently sitting at $901 billion in market cap, which, keep in mind, is still greater than the all-time high that we set at the very beginning of 2018, just after Bitcoin had topped out, during the Ethereum topping out, where we set an all-time high at $750 billion. On our low, remember guys, on our low, where we are down a grand total at extremes, from extreme top to extreme low, down 75% in 219 days, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market capitalization still dwarfs the level that we set as all-time high during the last bull market. And that speaks to one of our themes of today's show, and that is that the fundamentals of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are continuing to grow, and we need to keep our eyes on that prize. Let's take a look at what Jebb Bukele, president of El Salvador, is saying right now. He's been relatively quiet over the last couple of months as Bitcoin's been dropping significantly. As you guys will know, the nation of El Salvador brought online Bitcoin as a nationally accepted currency. Jebb Bukele, the president down there, was one of the champions of that. He said, "I see that some people are worried or anxious about the Bitcoin market price. My advice, stop looking at the graph and enjoy life." This is 3 rhymes in a row. That's pretty cool. If you invested in hashtag BTC, your investment is safe and its value will immensely grow after the bear market. Patience is key. Do you love Bitcoin? I love Bitcoin. Well, the first word that defines love is patience. So have some patience with Bitcoin. Understand that it is going to go through major corrections like this. And if you watched yesterday's video, then also remember that principles are the only thing that will overcome the FUD. If you understand the principles that Bitcoin and the crypto space were founded on, then you will have victory over this fear and anxiety that is prevalent in the space. But it's important also for us to be honest with ourselves. Are you feeling fear and anxiety right now? Are you fearing doubt? Are you feeling uncertainty? What are you feeling? What are your emotions? We're going to talk about emotions on an individual level and on a collective level a little bit later. But first and foremost, I want to throw it to Tim and ask him his opinion on Jebb Bukele's comments.
You know, I love that he's calming people down. I think that it's a great sentiment, and I think it is a true sentiment. What it probably is not the best is coming from his mouth. And I talked about it in the planning meeting this morning. Nothing against Jebb Bukele, nothing against Michael Saylor. I love what these guys are doing in the world of Bitcoin. I'm not going to comment on other things that they're doing, but in the world of Bitcoin, I love what they're doing. However, these are not the mouths that need to be telling people everything's going to be okay, calm down, don't sell. You know, whether they're doing it from a place of malice or not, there's just no way it's not going to be interpreted as, hey, you have a lot to lose here with Bitcoin. Of course, you're not going to want anyone to sell. Of course, you want people just to calm down and hold on to their money. So again, I'm not advising people do sell. What I'm saying is I want to hear it from more people than just Jebb Bukele.
Well, then who do we listen to? That's the question, I suppose, because Peter Schiff, as you guys know, the gold bug, who refuses to debate Michael Saylor, said right below Jebb Bukele's tweet, that advice is as bad as your advice to buy the top. How can you say an investment in Bitcoin is quote-unquote safe when it's already lost 75% of its market value? You have no idea how low the price will fall during this bear market or that the price will ever recover to current levels. So if we want to be careful about listening to people that are on the side of Bitcoin, should we also be careful of listening to people that are not on the side of Bitcoin?
Well, yeah, Peter Schiff, of course. Now you're running from the bulls to the bears. The people that we should be listening to, the people that you should take comfort in how they speak about things, are people that have been unbiased the entire time. You want to know one of the people I love listening to, and I don't know how many people actually follow him on Twitter. If you don't, you really should. Peter Brandt. Peter Brandt is somebody who I love when he talks about Bitcoin. And there's times I disagree with him. There's times I'm like, I see it a little bit different than you. But I love when I see his even keel response. I love when he looks at the charts, he looks at the fundamentals, he says, hey guys, this is a time to be bullish. Hey guys, this is a time to be bearish. I'm not saying just him. There are a lot of people. There's actually some other names I'm even exploring right now as I continue, just so you guys know, I every single day continue to educate myself on the space. How should I be responding emotionally? How should I be responding investment-wise? Should I be selling? Should I be trading? Should I be holding? Should I, whatever it is. Find people that have been even keel the whole time. That, again, I think you do want to find someone who sees the future of Bitcoin. You don't want to follow someone who's just a perma bear like Peter Schiff, who's no matter what happening is going to say it's going to go down to zero. Find people who are just being completely honest, and they'll tell you the truth, whether it's fun to hear or whether it's not fun to hear. Those are the people I'm listening to when they say, hey guys, it's going to be okay. Just calm down. Now I get this reassurance of saying, all right, hey, we're sitting in a good spot.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to remember, just, speaking about, first and foremost, the practicals of what Peter Schiff is saying, and then we'll talk a little bit about the principles, and then we're going to dive into TA. Bitcoin having lost 75% of its value is a temporary thing that will recover. Gold, on the other hand, has been inflated exorbitantly ever since about 100 years ago. It goes through about 2% inflation every single year. So yes, it's gone up in value, but if you look at gold's value increase over the last 100 years and you switch that based on how much inflation has happened by looking at things like prices of homes, gold hadn't even kept up with the US dollar. It's inflationary. Bitcoin is not, and that's why I would say to Peter Schiff the exact same thing I would say to you guys that I would say to myself, which is stop looking at the price. The price is downstream of fundamentals, and if you look at a long enough time horizon, those fundamentals will show out. If we're looking at just the last 219 days that we're down 75%, we have blinders on. You know why you put blinders on a horse? So they can't see the things by them that might freak them out. In this case, we're not looking at the things that would be giving us confidence, which is the long-term perspective on Bitcoin. So remember, when in doubt, zoom out. Now, if you were enjoying today's show, I want you to do me a favor. Hit that like button. Let's see if we can't get to 400 likes here in the next couple of minutes. It really helps to support the channel and get our message out there because there are a lot of people in the cryptocurrency space and outside of the cryptocurrency space, especially such as Peter Schiff, that are spreading a lot of FUD. It's our mission to help you guys achieve financial sovereignty by telling you the truth about Bitcoin. Now, I'm not here to tell you that I know where the exact bottom is. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I don't know that for certain. We talked about how it could go down to $22,000. It went all the way down to $17,500. We're going to be talking about the specifics, but the thing I really want to teach you is about the financial sovereignty that Bitcoin provides and the impacts that that will have on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And we want to share that message with as many people as we possibly can. So thank you very much. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. But let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin, because while it's amazing to talk about philosophy and principles, we do, of course, need to talk about practicalities and price action as well. So Peter Schiff is right. We are down 75% in about 220 days. November the 10th was the day that we hit $69,000, almost $70,000. And ever since then, Bitcoin has been trending to the downside, accelerating its downside movement here in late March, going into early April. Ever since late March, early April, Bitcoin has lost 63% of its valuation in less than 90 days. It is currently trading at $20,500. Now, let's look at some different metrics to understand whether or not the bottom is close. I would say that it is. Just, spoiler alert, I think we are very close to the bottom. I can't tell you if we're exactly in, but I do think we're very close to the bottom. But let's look at what the technical indicators are saying. Let's first look at RSI. RSI is a wonderful technical indicator to give us an idea of what the long-term perspective on the market is doing. If we look here, you can see that RSI has dropped all the way down to 20. Let's grab a horizontal line right here and see when the last time Bitcoin dropped down to 20 on the RSI was. In fact, it was right back here in January. And when we did that, Bitcoin would actually go through a pretty significant dead cat bounce, but it was a rally of 37% within 17 days. If we look even farther back in history, then we have to go all the way back to March of 2020 before we see another example of Bitcoin's RSI going that low. That was the pandemic drop, and from there, as you will remember, Bitcoin would go on to rally 1,500% in just over a year. That is phenomenal growth that we saw out of Bitcoin as a result of geopolitical instability and economic turmoil that came from shutting down the economy. That's what we saw happen there. Right now, we're seeing other fundamental forces, such as a 75 basis point rate hike that the Federal Reserve implemented, such as money printing still continuing around the world, such as rates being very low in Europe, such as conflict in Eastern Europe, such as potential conflict in the South China Sea. There are all kinds of major global factors bringing FUD into the economy right now and into Bitcoin's market, where people are wondering, am I safe to be putting money into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency when I could instead be buying food and storing up MREs in my basement, or should I be buying Bitcoin? There are a lot of very hard conversations going on at dinner tables around the world right now, and people questioning where should they be putting their capital. I would say, and this is something T. Shroom talked about in our planning meeting this morning, that it would be a wonderful idea to put off buying a lot of luxuries and try and accumulate some Bitcoin right now, because Bitcoin is on a massive discount. But Tim, what are you seeing in the price action charts of Bitcoin right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of mentioned those things on the RSI beforehand. Another cool one that we mentioned last week, Jebb, was if you got to the weekly chart, we are sitting at an all-time low on the RSI in the weekly chart right now. So those are key pieces of information to look at to say, hey, the bottom is close. Whether we have hit it, whether we have a little farther to go, or whether it's going to take a little more time, we are seeing some historically low numbers on those charts. It's not a guarantee, though, because this is new territory on the weekly chart. We've never been down this low. Just because we got to a place where this is the lowest of all time doesn't mean it can't go lower. But I absolutely agree with you, Jebb, that we did back on the daily chart. We hit that 20. The only thing that I'm looking at now is that it canceled out, and we talked about this last week as well. It is canceling out that bullish RSI divergence, meaning I think that we're going to need to develop a new level of bullish RSI divergence for a trend reversal. And you guys are going to see I have these two yellow lines. These are two price points that I'm keeping my eye on, and there's another one in the middle, and we've talked about this a little before, but the price points I'm looking at right now are from the Fibonacci retracement. I'll go ahead and draw it for you guys using the bottom of the bear market that we had back in 2018, and then we're gonna go all the way to our all-time high that we just had here in November. So the first thing to notice here, we talked about this a little before last week, but traditionally, bear markets, from the bottom of the past bear market to the top of the bull market, the bear market ends up coming down usually around this level of 0.382. The first couple actually hovered right in the middle between 0.382 and 0.236. The last couple have gone down, but it seems like every single one is getting worse. So I kind of posed this on my Twitter the other day. Are we going to hold? This is when we were sitting right at 0.382, by the way, guys, right there around 21.2. Were we going to hold there? We're going to drop through. Sure enough, later that day, we ended up dropping through. So the next level I'm looking at here using Fibonacci is the 0.5 level. And I've kind of put a zone around it because it's probably not going to hit it perfectly. But anywhere between lower 14,000s and 15,000 are very much on the table for us to go down to 0.5. And then if it gets even worse, because again, you got to factor in a lot of different fundamental elements and news stories that are continuing to break, a lot of bearish pressure in the market right now. The golden pocket on Fibonacci is actually sitting between lower 9,000. This is 9,300 and about 10,300. So that's another pocket we got to look at and consider potentially could we see pressure bring us down there. The last thing though is that we usually are doing technical analysis on the log chart, but if I go to the linear chart and we look at that bear flag we've talked about, because if you're looking at the log chart, the prediction put us somewhere around 23, 24, but on the linear chart, if I'm drawing that same bear flag going from the top of the all-time high in November down to the bottom and then extrapolating that to when we broke out, that actually gives us a price prediction of literally right at $12,000, which you guys have heard a lot of different people talking about. And there's a couple of other indicators that kind of point towards that $12,000 range, but look at that being right between this $14,000 to $15,000 pocket, this $9,000 to $10,000 pocket, we have that $12,000 pocket. What this is saying to me right now is I don't think there's a single number that I could bank on and say that absolutely that's going to be the bottom. It very easily could be the 14 to 15 range, could be the 12 range, could be the 9 to 10. But what I'm looking at on the charts is I do think we're seeing a short term, right now, a bottom on the charts where we bottomed out right here around 17,600, but it's simply going to be a little relief rally. And staying on this linear chart, what we had going for us that was actually a little bit better than the log chart is a falling wedge pattern right before we had that terrible news of historical inflation rate. We broke down outside of the falling wedge. I think potentially, Jebb, we could see the price do a short-term rally back up to that level of resistance, and we have a good amount of momentum. We maybe get back up into it, but long term, I do see from the RSI point, from the Fibonacci retracement point, and from the overall sentiment of the market right now, I don't think the bottom price is in. What would actually be kind of interesting is to see us actually bounce up off these levels, come back down, maybe hit around this range of 15,000, but at the same time, going back to our log chart, setting up this bullish RSI divergence where we don't come back down to 20, we're sitting at those levels maybe around 30, but that's the bullish RSI divergence we need for the trend reversal. And again, I've said this before, kind of sound like a broken record. If you go back in the history of Bitcoin, we have never seen a top or a bottom not have bullish or bearish RSI divergence with it. Not every bullish RSI or bearish RSI divergence is a top or a bottom to an entire market, but every single top and bottom, save the one during the pandemic, had that divergence, and at the moment, we don't have one anymore. So I'm still looking potentially for a lower price action.
Yeah, and I think you're probably right on that, Tim. Really quickly, let's look at the last two bear markets, because as you guys know, we called a bear market a little over a month ago when we dropped below market structure. Of course, we did not have the ability to really call a bear market until that, but now that we were able to call it, we were able to look back and say, okay, technically it started November the 10th of last year, in the same way that the previous bear market in 2018 started December 17th, 2017, but we couldn't call it until much later when we broke market structure. But let's look at the previous three bear markets, because there's something that all three of them, the previous two and this current bear market, because there's something that all of them have in common. Every single bear market, starting back in 2014, has established market structure support, in this case at $300, then catastrophically broke below it in a very rapid fashion, bottomed out entirely, and then traded sideways in what we call an accumulation phase for a time before beginning the next bull market. Everything below this level, people were saying Bitcoin was dead. Now, they were saying it back up here too, but this is when the critics really started getting loud. Peter Schiff is going to eat his words. I would be willing to bet on that. That's what we saw happen back here when Bitcoin was trading below $300. But the takeaway I want you to see right here is that Bitcoin dropped below $300 in a catastrophic event. We saw Bitcoin drop 16% in 4 days, bounce a little bit, and then drop 46% down to $166. Then the next bear market, we set market structure at $6,000. This is a market that I was actually here for. I witnessed this, and I remember some of the things that occurred. We set market support at $6,000. We did not manage to hold it. We eventually broke below it. We fell down 42%, bounced, then fell down a total of 50% below that level. In this case, we set market structural support here at $30,000. Right now, we are in the first leg of this drop to the downside. As Tim said, it would make sense based on the last two bear markets trend that we would see a dead cat bounce. And then if we did the same thing that happened back then, we could go as low as $14,500. That would actually make some sense because every single bear market in past has dropped 80 to 85%. An 80% drop on Bitcoin would drop it down to $13,600. We saw that happen here when Bitcoin dropped from $1,300 down to $165. That was 85% to the downside, 85% to the downside. If we saw 85% this time, which I think would be stretching it a little bit, we would see a $10,000 Bitcoin. I'm not saying that we're going to see a 10K Bitcoin, but I could see the mid-teens being hit.
And remember, that's the golden pocket level as well.
Exactly.
9 to 10. So
exactly. And so if we look at the moving averages also, we can also see that every time Bitcoin bottomed out, it dropped down to the 200 weekly simple moving average, except during the pandemic, which is a time where we actually went below that moving average. If we look at this moving average, we dropped 28% below that moving average and bounced above it very quickly. If we did the same thing where we dropped 28 to 30% below this moving average, that would put us at, you guessed it, $15,000. So it's possible that the bottom is a little bit lower, but I want you to be encouraged by something because I've actually lived through one of these. There's only 3 in history. We're building the 3rd right now, but I lived through the 2018, 2019 drop. I was actually I was in college back over here. I was a freshman in college, and then I was there for 1 semester, and I dropped out. And I remember when Bitcoin was trading at $3,000, and I'd been running a YouTube channel ever since, let's see, this date right over here, which is November 16th. Been running a YouTube channel for this entire time. All my friends and peers knew about it, and many of them started asking me questions that you may be hearing yourself right now. Jebb, gosh, haven't you been working on that YouTube channel for a long time? Like, hey, how's that going? You know, how are you feeling? Are you down 85%? Is this thing over? I bet you're getting a lot of those questions right now. You know, I've been through that. I want you to know I've been there. And for some of the people that work for us, you know, Kelly, for example, has been too. He's been in the market for over 5 years now. I will be hitting my 5-year birthday in cryptocurrency here in a month and a half. I remember when Bitcoin dropped off the face of the planet back here from $6,000 down to $3,000, getting all those questions. I remember one instance. I was walking back from the Santa Fe gym to one of my classes. One of my friends, who will remain nameless, walked up to me and he asked me, how's that Bitcoin thing going? Like, you might want to get out of that, dude. You might want to try and do something different. And I remember telling him, even back then, even over 3 years ago, I told him, nope, because I know what Bitcoin stands for, and I know that it will recover. And then I saw Bitcoin over the next 2 years rally to $65,000. It would move in 3 years 2,000% to the upside. Peter Schiff, if you're going to find 2,000% gains anywhere that are not Ponzi schemes but are actually well built, you're not going to find it in gold. Because if you look at the gold chart, gold price over the last 100 years. I had this chart up a second ago and I closed it. If you pull up this trend over the last 100 years, not adjusting for inflation, gold, I don't know if it's going to pull up or not, has gone from $400 to $2,400 an ounce. And in that time, in 100 years, the US dollar's lost 99% of its value, which means gold has actually lost value over the last 100 years. You're not going to find it anywhere else. And by the way, if you think, oh, well, Bitcoin's just a scam, that's why it's able to go up 200%. When was the last time that you saw a scam be down 70% and still hold $400 billion in investor value? That doesn't happen. This is not a joke. This is not a Ponzi scheme. This is not a scam. This is not the end of Bitcoin. This right here, my friends, exemplifies why we need Bitcoin. Because when Bitcoin drops 75%, it invariably recovers. When the US dollar loses 75% of its value, it just keeps going faster and faster towards zero as we print more and more money every single year to pay for today, stealing from next generations. Bitcoin is the only solution to that. So remember, the technicals show us that Bitcoin is probably relatively close to its bottom. I would like for it to have bottomed, but I can't tell you for certain that it has. But what I can tell you is that the fundamentals of Bitcoin have only gotten stronger over the last 7-8 months that we've been in this drop. And the proof of why we need Bitcoin is only clearer over the last 7 to 8 months as we've seen conflict in Europe remove people's bank accounts, inability to get access to their money, and have to flee the country. They've had to flee the country for many other reasons, but of course they don't have access to their funds. If they had Bitcoin, they would. We've also seen the massive amount of money printing continue, even as the balance sheet has been trying to, even as the Fed's been trying to reduce the balance sheet. We've seen interest rates jump through the roof to curb inflation that never should have happened in the first place because we shut down the economy when, in my opinion, we probably shouldn't have done that. A lot of factors here. Every single one of them points to why we need to take financial sovereignty out of the sovereign's hands and put it in trustless code called Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a $400 billion ecosystem built to redefine the way that we do finance. And I encourage you, if you remember why Bitcoin, you will be able to weather these storms. However, if you don't understand why Bitcoin, and if you're overinvested and you have too much money in this market, then you're going to have a very hard time when Bitcoin has dropped this much. So I caution you on that. It's very important that you remember why Bitcoin was created. Well, I think we can go ahead and move into some super chats if we have them.
Yeah, I actually don't think we have any super chats at the moment, but we have some things that we could potentially even talk about. You know, another point, Jebb, and I want to hear what you have to think about this because last week we talked about it. What is your thought about the current level that we're not close to the bottom where we've seen in the bear markets of the soft hands, of the weak hands in the Bitcoin market? Do you believe we have to see that metric go back down to where we've seen it before, or do you think that potentially even if there are still some weak hands in the market, we can go and rally? Because to be fair, I do think we were closer to that metric a little bit ago, and then I think there are weak hands being created as we speak.
Yeah.
People who thought they were diamond hands are realizing, these miners, for example, how many people are miners and they believe in the future of Bitcoin, but it's getting close to where they don't have the money to put their lights on, and they're afraid if the price gets down to 14, 15,000, that's just going to be a terrible deal for their Bitcoin, and now they're in a problem as well. So how many of them have become semi-weak hands in fear of, man, I love Bitcoin, I love what I'm doing here, however, I can't afford to sell at 15,000. I might need to consider selling right now to pay some bills.
So the question you have to answer there, because that's a wonderful question, you have to answer another question to get the answer for that. What is the intrinsic value of Bitcoin? Most people say it has no intrinsic value. Well, does the interstate highway system have any intrinsic value? You might, what are you talking about, Jebb? You know, there are construction crews that have to repair the interstate highway system to the tunes of billions of dollars every single year. The interstate highway system, if you pulled that from America, you would see GDP drop by over 25%. Guaranteed. The miners are like the construction crews that maintain the interstate highway system. In and of itself, the interstate highway system is completely valueless. If nobody ever used it, it'd not be worth anything. Because it is utilized so heavily, and because it is the best form of transport across the United States on wheels, it is utilized extremely heavily. Because Bitcoin is the best form of money that we have ever created, it is utilized extremely heavily. What are people going to do? They're going to go back to driving dirt roads all the way from San Francisco to San Antonio? No, they're going to use the interstate highway system because it's a better system. People are going to use Bitcoin because it's a better system. The miners are the people maintaining that infrastructure. If it's used less, then yeah, there's going to need to be less miners, and that would shut down some of the miners. However, if you look at the total hash rate, it's still sitting at all-time high as of 8 days ago. So we do have the concern about some miners shutting off mining. We are still at all-time high. So the question is, how many of them could shut off mining? Well, right now, it doesn't seem like many of them are. Big part of the reason for that is a lot of the miners are actually, at this point, so large that they become publicly traded companies, and they would rather sell stock or take loans to keep the lights on because they believe firmly that Bitcoin will recover and prices will go up in the next 2 to 3 years, and they'd prefer to hold on to the Bitcoin rather than selling it to keep the lights on. So they're basically running on credit right now, which is not the best move in the world. I'm not saying that that's the best idea, but that is what's happening because they trust in the future of Bitcoin. The people that trust in Bitcoin have such a strong, unshakable trust in Bitcoin. And yes, like you said, some of the bedrock, some of the weak hands are turning in, some of the bedrock, some of the diamond hands are turning into weak hands. And we do need to consider that. And that is why we could go below, $20,000 again. But I do think the bottom is very close regardless because of everything we've just talked about. The number of weak hands in this space is now very, very little. Now, there are some, as we've seen. There was a major drop in the price recently as a result of that. But I do believe most of them are gone at this point.
Yeah, we have two chats. One of them I'm going to wait for Brad to respond back because he's saying it won't let him. It's letting him give a chat because these are member chats, but it won't let him type for some reason. I don't know why that is. But Mike Markle said, "Great way to start the week with Jebb back. Love and respect, brother. Been on my heart. Tons of positive thoughts and good vibes your way, brother."
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate
And then
that.
yeah, Brad, he it says, but I told him to tag me in it. So I did see a question earlier in chat asked by somebody, and I can't remember the exact wording, so I'm going to word it, and I'd have to do more research on it before I could say what my thoughts are. But he was asking, I can't remember who it was. Jebb, what are your thoughts about this is the first crypto bear market that coincides with a massive stock bear market? And again, I'm not able to fact check this as we speak at the second, but is that true? Have we seen a difference is this the first time we've seen them coincide like this? Major bear markets?
No, it is. And
what are your thoughts about that?
And that's a very important factor, and that could be one of the reasons why Bitcoin would drop below $20,000 again. The important thing to remember is that for everybody who is in Bitcoin and understands why Bitcoin, they will realize that that's actually a great thing for Bitcoin. Most of the billionaires that are billionaires right now made their money because they bought the dang dip on the 2008 bear market and the 2008 financial crisis. They made all of their money in the dip. So yes, that is going to drive price to the downside because there is a recession going on. It's going to be called in the next 11 days when we see this quarter close out. We'll see 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, almost certainly at this point, and they will call it a recession. I would argue that because of all the money printing and because of the inflation of the U.S. dollar, we've been in a recession for the last 2 years because if you use January 1st, 2020's dollar, then you would, I don't have this statistic off the top of my head, but I would imagine that we've probably seen negative GDP growth if you look at actual inflation data. I'm not talking about manipulated 8.6% CPI data that doesn't include 200% inflation in lumber, 150% inflation in gasoline. It's a ridiculous number. I completely disagree with CPI. The point is the U.S. dollar's lost a lot of its valuation, and if you looked at what the actual inflation was, if we had some ability to do that, we would see that there actually has been a lot more inflation. We've been in a recession anyway, and during that time, we saw Bitcoin rally from $3,800 on a dip to $69,000. So yes, having an actual confirmed by the U.S. federal government recession will drive a lot of FUD. But I don't think it would actually have that big of an impact on Bitcoin because it's been just as hard for people to pay for goods and services over the last 2 years as it is now. It's getting worse, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not getting worse. It is. But we've been in this market. And I do think that this will show people why you need Bitcoin. If anything, this will exemplify the point of why Bitcoin.
Well, Jebb, before we transition, I think we have a really important announcement.
We have a very important announcement. And guys, I am very, very excited to share something that we have brought to you. Today, we have a very special announcement for you. This project that we've been working on is just incredible. We've been working on it for over 2 years. You guys know it. The team our project has been developing for over a year. Club DeFi is finally entering open beta. We're developing Club DeFi with the help of all of you, our community, and it's in all of our hearts to make sure cryptocurrency education works for you, the masses, so that we can go out and share with everybody what Bitcoin. If you haven't checked out Club DeFi, here's what we got. We got weekly office hours where different teachers are going to be sitting down in a live stream format on a Demio call, bringing you guys different answers to your questions. We also have an exclusive Discord server where all of our different members will be able to communicate and join in fellowship and community to grow in their knowledge and understanding of cryptocurrency. A lot of people have already met each other and grown over there. We have several hundred people in Club DeFi right now. It's been closed beta from the beginning, but now it is opening up. We also have a growing catalog of courses with new lessons being released every single week. We have dozens and soon to be hundreds of videos over in Club DeFi that will help you guys to understand everything that you need to know about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. All of this for $30 a month, and we will never raise your price. Join the club with the link in the description box down below and make sure to get started because we have been working on this for so long. We're so excited to bring it to you. Tim, tell us, what are you excited about with Club DeFi?
Yeah, honestly, so I've been doing, Kelly and I have been doing those office hours, and they have been super fun just to hear you guys. Even remember, some of the questions that are being asked are the same questions I asked when I was beginning my journey. It's been really cool to just watch people, even in those, begin to grow. And I'm excited about the future of this, what we're gonna go with this, and how we're gonna build it out, and how we're gonna continuously bring you guys the absolute best, not only education but community-based education. Like, it's something you don't have to do alone. loan. Like it's really sometimes boring to buy some sort of course and then you just go through a list of videos and then you're done with it. And that's kind of what CT2A was. Yes, there were some frequently asked questions lists. Yes, we try to do our best to get back to people. But this one, there's going to be heavy emphasis put on that Discord. Heavy emphasis based on those office hours. We're going to have an option for anyone who wants it to purchase one-on-one training here in the near future.
Yep.
It's just super cool what we're going to be building. It's a community-based thing. So you guys, even the members in this chat, if you guys want to interact with them a lot more and learn from each other, because there's so many people with experience from different spaces. Our vision for Club DeFi, the reason we built it was because we believe that people need an ability to grow their financial sovereignty, but that is not done alone. It's done with each other through community, and that's what Club DeFi is all about. So that is what I'm most excited about, the future of it.
Guys, we're so excited. We are so very excited to be bringing you Club DeFi. We've been working on it for a long time. We put our blood, sweat, tears, and so much excitement and joy into it. And we love watching you guys grow. We loved watching 5,000 of you guys grow through CT2A over the last several years, and we're looking forward to thousands of you guys continuing to grow in Club DeFi. We've already got a bunch of people over there, so you're not joining a new community. There's a bunch of people that are already there from our closed beta. So join today, join the Discord server, go have some fun over there. And there's actually a part of the Discord server that's called Introductions. Make sure to go make your introduction. Tell everybody what your story is in crypto. There's dozens of them from other members of Club DeFi's closed beta in there, and you can get some inspiration there. If you have any questions on it, feel free to email us at support@cryptojebb.com. That is in the description box down below as well. But let's go ahead and move into our next segment here. We want to talk about some of the different big names in cryptocurrency. What do they believe is going on with Bitcoin? Well, CZ, Changpeng Zhao, the founder and CEO of Binance, says this: historically speaking, if you bought Bitcoin every time that there is a Bitcoin is dead headline, you would have done well. Logic: when they lose hope, that's when the bottom is in. Not financial advice, not recommending this strategy or any other in the future. But if you take a look at the chart here, and I've been here for a lot of these, everybody was saying Bitcoin was dead here at the beginning of 2019. Everybody was saying Bitcoin was dead here at the beginning of the pandemic. That's what people were saying. And it turns out they were wrong, because Bitcoin is built on timeless principles and it is unhackable and basically indestructible. It's probably the first example of indestructible code ever built. You'd have to destroy the entire internet to destroy Bitcoin, because it's like a virus. You leave one node active and the entire thing can regenerate itself. It's incredible. If we look here at another economist that many of you guys will have followed, he's not really much into Bitcoin, but he does say this. Paul Krugman says Bitcoin's modest rally is dead cat bounce. I would actually argue that he's right. We talked about today how Bitcoin could go much lower, and I want you to keep that in mind. It could go much lower. He's basically saying that this little rally right here is a dead cat bounce, and as much as it might hurt us to say that, he probably is right on that. We also have Cameron Winklevoss. Let me go ahead and grab his tweet right here because I closed it. Cameron Winklevoss has a very interesting take here. He says, okay, Bitcoin by the way, if you don't know who Cameron Winklevoss is, he's one of the Winklevoss twins. They are the people that sued Mark Zuckerberg for basically taking their idea for Facebook, and then they used the proceeds from that lawsuit to go and found Gemini, and they're two of the biggest names in crypto. He is one of the twins. He says, okay, Bitcoin under $20,000 feels like an over-rotation. The underlying fundamentals, adoption, and infrastructure has never been stronger. We saw the irrational top. This feels irrational in the other direction. Poll in the room here. You guys. I'm talking to both Smay and Tim here. Also the audience. Tell me what you think in chat. Do you guys feel like this is an irrational move to the downside? Does this make any sense to you?
Irrational?
Irrational. Do you agree with Cameron here?
I don't know about irrational. The fundamentals are there to back it up. I think that we're being surprised.
Down to 20,000?
I think we're being surprised by the level of of the inflation and everything, but it's not irrational. It actually makes a lot of sense when you're looking at the fundamentals and you're looking at the fear that's coming in the market. And it seems like every day, like a snowball. The best way to build a snowball, honestly, or if you're bringing a snowman rather, is to start with a little ball and then you roll it down a hill and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think irrational is the wrong word. I think surprising that we're this, the move keep getting back and back and back. The numbers that we're seeing as being a realistic bottom keep getting lower and lower and lower. So I think irrational is the wrong word. Surprising could come into play, though.
Right. Smay, let me ask your opinion. We haven't heard you talking a little bit. Do you think that we're irrationally far to the downside?
No, I think that we're very clearly following traditional markets, and I think that's how Bitcoin's going to be until eventually people see it as its own thing. But we're far away from that. So I don't think this is irrational. I think this was actually, if anything, to be expected based on how the traditional markets are doing. And yeah, I mean, I think historically we've seen the interest rates are going up, people tend to invest less, and that's how it happens. So.
Absolutely. Well, moving on here, we also have Kevin O'Leary saying this. He says he won't sell any crypto despite downturn. You just have to stomach it. And I've got to agree with this perspective. He said, I'm not selling anything. Long term, you just have to stomach it. You have to understand you'll get volatility and some projects aren't going to work. There's been a big correction in the market, but you've got to hold your nose and get used to the volatility. It's nothing. A rounding error in the context of sovereign wealth is bad for investors, but they've educated on the market. It's a good thing to do. This is the impact of on global financial markets. So what's the point here? The experts are unloading their opinion, and many of them are pro-Bitcoin. Many of the people that are against Bitcoin are using Bitcoin's drop to say, oh, well, obviously Bitcoin's dead, of course, but hasn't that happened every single time? Hasn't it happened every single time? And by the way, a lot of the experts in crypto warn you guys. We try to warn you guys when Bitcoin is sitting up above $60,000 and it's been rallying for so long. I remember when it hit $65,000. I remember saying on the stream in the channel, I was like, we have been rallying from $3,800. We've not had a back test. TD Sequential was massively overextended on the weekly chart. The people in crypto will, hopefully, if they know what they're doing, and we've all made mistakes. I'm definitely the chief of sinners in that. I've made my own fair share of mistakes. We can't see the future perfectly. But people in crypto will generally tell you, hey, look, the top is probably getting a little bit close. Again, there are mistakes, but the people that hate on Bitcoin are going to hate on Bitcoin no matter what, whether it's doing well or bad. If it goes up, it's a Ponzi scheme. If it goes down, it's dead. Duh. That's what they're saying. And that's just not all that accurate. But why does it matter what they are saying? And why does this drop matter? Well, when you don't understand where you are, it's awfully difficult to figure out where you are going. Think about being in Chicago and you got a map from New York City. The subway map from New York and you're in Chicago, it's not going to be very, very useful. It's true in life and it's true in crypto. If you don't have a proper roadmap to explain to you where you are and where you are going, if you're using a traditional market lens, I'm not saying we shouldn't look at traditional markets, but if you're using a lens from traditional markets, if you're using a gold lens on Bitcoin, if you're using any lens on crypto other than a crypto lens, looking at the history of crypto, you are going to be confused on where you are going. When people don't know where they are in the cycle, they sometimes miss time trades. They make uncharacteristic mistakes and their intuition becomes unreliable. A lot of people's intuitions become unreliable right now because emotions are getting involved in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency trading. That is always something that we will battle, but especially when Bitcoin is down 20+% over the last several weeks, then we're going to see major drops, major declines in people looking at the market rationally. It's very important that, one, we look at the market rationally, not emotionally, but also that we look at the market through a lens of cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency's trends and cryptocurrency's technical analysis. And yes, we should look at what the Federal Reserve's doing right now. We should look at what's going on geopolitically. We should look at what's going on in traditional markets. We should do that. But let's not take a stock market lens and look at Bitcoin. Let's not take a gold lens and look at Bitcoin. Let's take a Bitcoin lens and look at Bitcoin. I am not for a second saying that we should put ourselves in a bubble and not take criticism from the outside world. But I am saying let's make sure that we are talking about Bitcoin when we're talking about Bitcoin. Tim, what are your thoughts on that?
About just when to think about it?
How should we look at Bitcoin? Through what lens should we look at Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies?
That's a good question. That's a hard one to answer. I think when you're looking at it, you got to, the first thing is you've got to take emotion out of the equation. And I know that's something that we've talked about well before. We'll talk about that for a long term. It is much easier to say than it is to actually do. I myself constantly am catching myself getting probably a little bit too emotionally invested in my trades, too emotionally invested in my holdings, and I have to kind of take a step back and say, hey, I got to first of all stop that. The second thing is, you want to make sure you're looking at the whole picture and not isolating yourself down to one thing. There's this verse in the Bible that talks about not, as a Christian, not trying to find the people that just will tell you what you want to hear. Right. The Bible it warns against people who just look for preachers who tickle the ear. In the same breath, let me take that line of reasoning. How many people only want to listen to and look for people who will tell them things about Bitcoin or the rest of the crypto market that align with what their emotions are saying? They literally look for influencers or experts, because as we just covered, those are 4 people that I think every person should heavily respect. They've done things in this world that you should respect them. But people want to pick and choose which one they want to listen to based off of their current feeling on the market. So if you don't like Bitcoin, you're going to listen to the Peter Schiffs of the world. You're going to listen to people who are nothing but bearish. If you want Bitcoin to jump up to 100, you're going to listen to the perma bulls, and you're going to only hear what they have to say. I think you need to take a step back and allow yourself to see diverse opinions. You need to look at what is the fundamentals going on right now. What is happening in the stock market? What's happening in equities? What's the history of that realm? Because right now, like it or hate it, Bitcoin is being treated that way. I need to pay attention to that, even if it's not fun. I need to pay attention to people who disagree with my opinion and understand why they disagree with my opinion. Because either A, it'll solidify me and I'll realize how wrong they are based on their false logic. I'm right and this is the reason why. Or it opens you up to oh my gosh, my line of reasoning and thinking was completely wrong and they just exploited it. That helps me out a lot. But as long as you have this emotional feeling that you're going to be right and you have to continue your narrative and you only look for people who will speak to you in that same narrative, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So, that's kind of my thing is I'm heavily right now looking at people and striving to find people that disagree with me, and I want to hear their whys. And when I hear their why, I can either, again, use that to solidify why I'm going to continue my line of thinking that I'm using or change my opinion on what the market's doing.
Absolutely. So let's look back at these experts. What are they saying? CZ says every time you buy Bitcoin, every time Bitcoin is dead, it's not a bad time to buy. Paul Krugman says it's probably a dead cat bounce. We might go lower. Cameron Winklevoss says it feels like an over-rotation, and it feels like we're seeing an irrational drop to the downside. Kevin O'Leary says he won't sell any crypto despite the downturn. You just have to stomach it. Do I agree with these guys? Well, I think it is a great idea to buy Bitcoin whenever Bitcoin's dead. If we look at Bitcoin obituaries, it's died 455 times. Every single time, somehow it's come back to life, I guess, or it probably, more likely, it never died in the first place. And different authors of articles on different sites just wanted to get some clickbait. But Paul Krugman says Bitcoin's modest rally is dead cat bounce. I agree with him. I do think we're going to go lower. If we look at Cameron Winklevoss, CZ, Bitcoin is dead. Cameron Winklevoss, we're over-rotated to the downside. Yeah, I do think that we're getting into that territory. Kevin O'Leary says you just have to stomach it. I agree. You just have to stomach it. But so should we be listening to these experts? Should we be listening to the critics? Should we be listening to, Peter Schiff, who's a critic? Or better yet, should you listen to Crypto Jebb? Yes, you should listen to all of these people. But who is going to make the decision? Is it these people? Are they going to decide what you're going to do for trading? Well, some of them probably have funds, and if you put your money in their fund, then yeah, they are making the decision. But you made the decision to give it to them. What's my point? You have to decide what you're going to do. The impetus is on you. See, the best thing that you can invest in, especially during this time, is your education. That's why we love Club DeFi. That's why we've launched Club DeFi, having a community to weather through the hard times so that we can learn more and grow in our understanding of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. That is what we want to build with Club DeFi. Investing in your education is the best investment you will ever make, even better than Bitcoin, because if you don't understand how to invest in Bitcoin right, you're just going to lose a lot of money. Should you be listening to these experts? Yes. Should they be making your decisions for you? No. That's why we need to invest in our education first, because you are the person making the decisions, and if you try and pass that blame and pass that responsibility off to somebody else, then you are passing away your financial sovereignty, and you're going against the principle Bitcoin was founded on. And if you're going in friction, if you're working against the principles Bitcoin was founded on, you're going to have a very hard time being successful in Bitcoin. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. But does our emotion, when we're talking about fear, does our emotion when we're talking about excitement, does that identify where you are in the market cycle? Well, the answer is kind of yes and no. No, your own emotion doesn't help you identify where the market is. If you're scared, that doesn't mean the bottom's in. If you're scared, that doesn't mean the top's in. If you're excited, that doesn't mean the top's in. If you're excited, that doesn't mean the bottom's in. But on the macro timeline, whenever you're looking at the macro emotions, it actually does have a very large impact on explaining where we are in the market. For example, taking a look at Fear and Greed Index, you can see we just hit extreme fear yesterday and hit 6 on Fear and Greed. You can't actually hover over it right here because the chart won't let you go that far back, but in August of 2019, it looks like Fear and Greed dropped all the way down to 5. So this is the second lowest that we've ever seen Fear and Greed. Looking at August 2019, if we go back on our chart here, we can see what was going on back then. August 2019, we were seeing that there was quite a lot of fear as a result of some drops going on right here. The point is that Fear and Greed gives us a solid understanding of the aggregate. So if you're scared of Bitcoin right now, keep in mind your fear, your excitement, your uncertainty, your fear of missing out, your doubt, none of that gives you any idea of where the market is. It just shows you that, remember why Bitcoin. However, the emotional state of the market in the aggregate does have an impact because, remember, technical analysis is understanding the psychology of the traders and investors so that you will understand how they will trade and invest, so you'll understand how they impact the market and how that will impact the price. So it is important that we're looking at the aggregate here. That's something that you need to keep in mind. Tim, did we just see the bottom? That's another question.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I don't think so in price. I don't think so in time. There's a lot of different things. Obviously, you can use charts for that, but you can also look at fundamentals. You can see a lot of different things happening. I think there's a lot of confusion in the market right now. The other thing was, and I saw someone mention this in chat, and we wanted to cover it, is Bitcoin also has never seen a full-on. Technically, it has seen a recession. We talked about that last week. That technically there was a 2-quarter session during 2020, during the pandemic, where by definition, we were in a recession. But of course, then we started printing money. We started giving those checks out, and we came back out of it really quickly. We've never seen what we're about to see here in the markets. And so there's, again, charts are kind of showing it. We've talked about that in the TA section. If you don't know what we're talking about, go back, watch the TA section after the show's over. And also fundamentally, I don't think Bitcoin is ready yet. There's a lot of different things that need to play out. Again, one of my things is weak hands. I think weak hands need to be brought out of the market. And then regulation needs to come in, giving clarity to the institutions, because that's the whole thing right now. Is we have retail investors with really shaky hands right now who are really scared, and it's kind of like that thing. If you and your buddies get picked up for a crime, there's the tactic of the cops is to scare one of you to snitch on the others. And one of their tactics is to scare you into thinking if you don't snitch, then one of them's going to snitch on you. So you have to beat them to the punch. Well, that's, I think, what some retail investors are doing right now is they're really scared about that drop. They don't want to sell at the bottom. They want to sell right now and then maybe buy back down there. I think we're dealing with that. Also, we're waiting for institutional money to come into space, but there's not real regulation. Also, you're watching an asset that just dropped 70%. Is that until you see a bottom kind of giving you some cement? Are those institutions really biting at the bit to get in? I think some are. They love these prices, but I think there's a lot sitting on the sideline who's saying, we still don't know regulation, and this could keep going down. I'm going to hold off for a second. And so for those reasons, I don't think that this is either the price bottom or the time bottom. I do think this is a dead cat bounce. I do think we're going to rally potentially into the mid-20s, and I think people are going to get FOMO'd into the market thinking, bam, we hit it. We hit that 200 SMA on the weekly chart. We're going, and it's just, no, that's a fake out. It wasn't time yet, and they're going to be surprised.
Absolutely. So, and on another note, what should you be doing if you took a major position at $30,000? Well, first and foremost, remember, if you took a major position at $30,000 with a long enough time horizon, this shouldn't be phasing you. That if you took it with a 5-year time horizon, you should be looking at it and saying, hey, Bitcoin will probably be at $400,000 in 5 years. So I'm not worried that it's dropped down to $20,000 because I bought it to hold it for the long term. But if you spent all your money at $30,000 and you don't have any left over, I would encourage you to dollar cost average. Even if you haven't done that, I would encourage you to dollar cost average, because dollar cost averaging is built for bear markets. If you buy in this low, then you're going to bring down that average entry price, and you're going to make all of your Bitcoin cheaper on the aggregate, which is important. So if you're not dollar cost averaging, consider dollar cost averaging right now. I'm not telling you to, just a consideration, something to think about. And by the way, dollar cost averaging doesn't have to happen every day. Doesn't have to happen every week. You can dollar cost average a lump sum every 2 months if you want, every month if you want, and it may be very helpful. I would make sure that you guys are using a multitude of strategies when you're accumulating your Bitcoin, maybe lump sum purchases, but also don't forget that dollar cost averaging is a wonderful way to make sure you're not investing too much on the front end, but that you're actually extending that investment forward through time so that in case it does go lower, you have some capital left to buy back in lower. But what's our key point here? We are likely at or close to the bottom, but crypto is very volatile and is likely in a season of being oversold. It's probably not at the bottom yet, but we are probably close to it. In price and in time, we're probably close to it, but I'm not so sure that we're here. If we were to look at the chart for just a second, remember what I talked about here on the BLX chart. After we dropped below these levels and had this, cataclysmic drop in 2015, we traded sideways down below these levels before breaking above them. In this case, it would be $300. In our case, it's $30,000, which, by the way, this is only 7 years ago, so remember what 7 years can do to Bitcoin. In this case, we accumulated in this accumulation phase for about 5-6 months before we broke to the upside. So we might be down here below 30K, which is our equivalent level for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. But the point is, we're likely going to recover and rally because hopefully the global economy will straighten out a little bit, and it probably will to a certain extent. We'll get used to a new normal, even if that new normal is $7 a gallon gas and $500 sheets of plywood. Hopefully not. But the point is, we will hopefully get used to a new economy and Bitcoin will start to level out. Trade sideways and accumulation down here, and then we'll finally find the bottom, and hopefully sometime in 2023 we will kick off a new bull market. That is at least what I would like to see. So what do we do with this accumulation phase that we're in then? Well, one thing that you can consider is reducing your expenditures on day-to-day goods. Instead of buying, for me, for example, for our family, instead of shopping at Publix, let's shop at Aldi. You can get the off-brand, tastes just as good, half the price. Instead of buying a bunch of luxury items, maybe let's put some money into savings so that we can weather the storm for our, overhead for our home or for our businesses. But also, let's make sure that we're putting some money into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and potentially trying to invest down here if you come to that conclusion that is what you are supposed to be doing. So maybe reduce your spending so that you can buy more Bitcoin at these levels, because remember, these are historic lows. Bitcoin is unlikely to see a $20,000 level again after we go into a bull market. The next bear market that we'll see maybe in 2024, 2025, we probably won't see Bitcoin retracing down to 20K. In the same way, we probably won't see Bitcoin retracing down to $3,400 in the same way we saw in 2019. It's very unlikely we're going to see that. That would be very strange. So we're probably going to see something similar, a stair step to the upside. We never saw levels at $250 again. We're probably never going to see levels at $4,000 again. And after the next bull market cycle, we probably won't ever see $20,000 again. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to rally and not go back there right now. I'm talking about give it 3-4 years and we probably will never see $20,000 again. But we shall see on that. Time will tell. The point is, take advantage of these lows and hold for the long term. This is not my financial advice to you, but it is my encouragement for you from nearly 5 years in the market. So what's your takeaway here? Macro market forces are pressuring overselling while infrastructure is growing. The hash rate's continuing to grow. The number of people that are aware of Bitcoin is continuing to grow. The use case for Bitcoin is continuing to grow. The development of Bitcoin is continuing to grow. The Lightning Network is continuing to grow. Regulatory infrastructure is continuing to grow. Different nations onboarding Bitcoin as national currencies and legislation all around the world continuing to grow. The why for Bitcoin is becoming more and more obvious as nation states around the world completely debase their currencies and destroy their economies and prove why we need to put financial sovereignty in the hands of trustless code and the individual. If you love Bitcoin, this is a great time for you because you get to get cheap Bitcoin. You get to get 70% off on that flat screen television you've been ready to buy. Now you get 70% off on Bitcoin. It's a discount. Don't look at it as a drop. Look at it as a discount and hold it for the long term. Remove emotion, remove social pressures from your trading and your investing, and ensure that you understand one very important thing, and that is why Bitcoin was founded, was to give you financial sovereignty and to take it out of the hands of federal governments all around the world that, quite frankly, cannot be trusted with monetary policy, and they've proven that throughout history. Tim, do you have any final thoughts on that?
Man, I think you wrapped that up really nice and clean. So
good deal.
I'm good.
Well, we're going to read some super chats here in a second, but guys, just keep in mind today Club DeFi launched in open beta. It went into open beta so that we are able to allow you guys to get in. We'll go into a full launch later, but it's open beta right now, so everybody can join. Sign up with the link in the description box down below. You'll lock in $30 a month. And if you're wondering, Jebb, I'm trying to buy Bitcoin. That's $30 I could be putting into Bitcoin. Well, let me just explain something very simple to you that I realized when I got into crypto. The best investment that I ever made was not in Bitcoin. It was not in Ethereum. It was not in Cardano. It was not in XRP. It was in this. And you guys see it. I was able to do the things that I've done in crypto by the grace of God, absolutely. But the way that happened was because I invested in my education. I put thousands of hours into teaching myself how to read markets, how to read trends, how to do technical analysis. We made over 2,000 videos on this channel now, and you can bet your bottom Satoshi that I've learned a lot about Bitcoin running this channel. So how did we, Tim, myself, Smay, Kelly, everybody on our set, all of you guys, how have you become successful in crypto? You didn't become successful in crypto by investing in Bitcoin. You became successful in crypto because you understood how to invest in Bitcoin. There's a big difference there. So don't think for a second that you can walk away from education and just focus on investment, because investment has to come first or you're not going to have the kind of success that you want. I wish, we all wish, that something like Club DeFi existed back when we got into crypto. We do. That's why we built Club DeFi, was because it's what we wish we had when we got into crypto. Because it would have saved me thousands of hours of self-education if I had been able to go to clubdefi.com and learn everything that I need in one place with the help of the community. Tim, would you say the same for yourself?
Absolutely. As I said, I told you guys that when we were building this, one of our thoughts was even the experience that I had getting to go through CT2A and watch the videos, but then spend the day with Jebb and ask him questions and engage with him. And then I told you guys also, one of the things is I got to learn technical analysis in front of you guys. Go back and watch the mid 2021 when sometimes I would come on here and try to do some technical analysis. I learned by failing. Well, guess what? That's why I'm actually now a pretty good technical analyst. Is I got to ask a lot of questions. I got to engage. I got to be wrong and see why I was wrong. And so we want to bring those same experiences to you guys in Club DeFi. That's why we built it with those office hours in the Discord and allowing you guys to share things with not only us as a team, but with each other and learn together. That's why it's going to be a phenomenal tool for your education.
So make sure you sign up for clubdefi.com. Link is in the description box down below. By the way, it is a month-to-month thing. You're not signing a contract or anything. So if you want to cancel it, you can. We would encourage you not to because that wouldn't be good for you. But make sure to sign up. The link is down below. Let's read some super chats and we'll wrap it out here.
Yeah, we have one and then another good question in chat that we're not going to go into crazy details, but we'll cover here for just a second. The Kardashian said old CME gap was filled. Huge gap in volume into the 20s is being filled. And if we close the month around 22,000, we will have held the 200 weekly moving average trend.
That's all accurate, and that is a very exciting thing that Bitcoin is doing, building stronger market support for the next time that we go into a bull market. It's wonderful.
Yeah. We had another question in chat. So again, we're going to cover this very briefly, and then later this week, we'll give you more details as they continue to come out. But someone asked, what are your guys' thoughts about all the chaos happening in Solana? So before I even highlight that, Jebb, are you aware of what's happening with Solana right now?
I haven't. No, I'm not sure.
All right. So on Twitter, you can go to my screen real quick, Smay. On Twitter right now, oops, I went to the wrong thing. If you guys follow Watcher.guru, you'll love this. Just in, this was 20 hours ago, Solana-based protocol Solend has voted to temporarily control the largest whale's account to mitigate liquidation risks.
Huh?
So and then today, earlier, there was another post came out. I need to read more into this and find out what's happening. But Solana-based protocol Solend has voted to invalidate the proposal that granted control over the largest whale. When you go into it, I got to read more to get more details, but they talk about their voting on how long it takes to vote, how long of a window people have to vote. As a whole, though, this is scaring a lot of people. You can go off my screen now. This is scaring a lot of people because this right here is the proof of the pudding. If you thought Solana was decentralized, you are not correct. It doesn't mean
really sad.
If you thought it was decentralized. Sorry, it doesn't mean Solana is going to die. I don't think this is the reason alone, unless the market just moves in a place where if you're a centralized system, we just don't want you. But for anyone thinking Solana is decentralized, right here is the proof. The fact that they can even vote on something like that and it gets this close. This is not a decentralized system. Solana is just another reason why our team, you guys continue to do your own research, continue to think for yourself. If you love Solana, great. If you think Solana's team is building things very quickly and you love it, great, invest in it. As for our team, this is really, really scary to us. This is not a project that we want to be invested in when you can that easily take over the largest whale's account. Even though they're doing it probably for a good reason to handle liquidations, the fact that that's within their ability to do is a very scary thing.
That's absolutely right. Well, guys, we will be, it sounds like, bringing you more content this week on that. But if you enjoyed today's show, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are continuing to bring you guys cryptocurrency content through the cryptocurrency winter that we're in right now. We'll continue doing that because we love to support you guys. Make sure to join the club with the link in the description box down below. You're not going to want to miss all of those different features, the weekly office hours, our exclusive Discord server, our growing catalog of courses, and the amazing people that we have over there that can teach you amazing things, such as how to profit and trade and invest in the cryptocurrency space. Guys, that's all we got for you today. Before we go, we do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.